The Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, translation by Chip Hartranft. 1.4. Otherwise, awareness takes itself to be the patterns of consciousness. Otherwise, awareness takes itself to be the patterns of consciousness. Vritti sarupyamitharatra. Vritti sarupyam itaratra. Sarupyam itaratra, when joined, sounds as sarupyamitharatra. Therefore, vritti sarupyamitharatra. Or we can read them out as separate words. Vritti sarupyam itaratra. Vritti, the patterning or turnings or movements or whirlpools. Sarupyam, identified, identification, conformity. Sarupyam, in fact, can still be broken down as sa, meaning that, rupyam, meaning form. Sarupyam, therefore, is two words, meaning to take that form. They take on that form. Itaratra, meaning otherwise. Otherwise, awareness takes itself to be the patterns of consciousness. Narrator's comments. Again, this sutra has to be read in conjunction with the previous ones to make meaning, because it starts with the word otherwise, implying at other times. So we have to know when are those times which are not the other times. So the full meaning is, track back 2 sutras to where it said yoga is to still the patterning of consciousness, meaning yoga is to still the mind. The next one, that is the one just before this, 1.3, said, then pure awareness can abide in its very nature, meaning then the mind rests in its actual true nature. Then you become what you really are. And this sutra says, otherwise, and therefore it implies at the times when yoga has not been achieved, at the times when the mind is not completely quiet, when the patterns of consciousness have not completely been subsided. At those times, awareness takes itself to be the patterns of consciousness. To simplify this language, at those times we imagine that we are the contents of our minds. So think of the mind as a separate thing of its own, be it a vessel or a container or a device of some sort. And things arise in the mind, they play out for some time, and then they subside. So the right perception or right way of looking at whatever the contents of our mind are at any given time is to separate ourselves as simply being aware of those contents and looking at them objectively. That creates a separation between us and our psychological content, thereby giving us some degree of control in the beginning of the practice to master and not be affected by the contents of the mind. And that helps in creating the state of yoga slowly over many years of practice. So at all times, instead of being affected by the emotion or the feeling that we're feeling, we must simply watch and observe the feeling or emotion that has arisen in the mind objectively, like a doctor views a patient, or like a scientist conducting an experiment in the lab would look at the contents of his experiment. For example, I hate him is getting identified with the contents of the mind. The correct perception would be hatred has arisen. I'm aware of it. Now, whatever the thoughts that occur when that hatred towards someone has arisen, we do not try to subside those thoughts. We do not try to oppress them or to try and stop them in any way. We let them play out, but at the same time, we do not flow along with them like we used to. So we don't feel hatred. We simply watch those thoughts as they arise and play out. And then after some time, we will notice they will go away on their own without our effort of any kind. If we do this, the same thought that we just watched the last time will come less frequently the next time, and even less frequently the next time. And they will also decrease in their intensity every time, until finally they will stop coming. This is what is to be done with every emotion. Lust has arisen. False perception has arisen. Concoction of ideas into fanciful imagination has arisen. That which is not true has arisen. It will subside. Therefore, the nutshell, the sum and substance of this sutra, and in conjunction with this, the previous sutras, is when the mind is not still, we are identified with the contents of the mind. At other times, pure awareness abides in its very nature, means we, who are simply the awareness of things, we stand out in our own nature. We stand apart from the contents of the mind. Otherwise, we are engaged in this psychological turmoil, thrown about, tossed about by this tyrannical psychological thinking.